There are few people as synonymous with glitz and glamour as Dolly Parton. The rhinestone-studded queen of country is not only a musical legend, but an accomplished actress.
I'm gonna get that gun of mine, and I'm gonna change you from a rooster to a hen with one shot.
Songwriter and savvy businesswoman. You might have heard of Dollywood or Dolly's non-profit Imagination Library, and we bet you've had Jolene stuck in your head at least a few times. But did you know that without the Queen of Country, some of the most popular TV shows of the 80s and 90s wouldn't have been made? Follow us on a deep dive into Dolly Parton's rags to rhinestones story of how she went from living in a cabin to living legend. And make sure to stick around till the end when we uncover Dolly Parton's top 3 secrets to success that you can use to change your own life today. This is the true rags to riches story of Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton has earned her wealth through album sales and royalties, television appearances, and stadium tours. As one of the richest country music stars, she also owns a number of businesses. The bulk of Dolly Parton's $600 million net worth actually comes from her investments back into her humble community. She owns the Dollywood Company, which operates a water park, a dinner theatre, and her famous theme park, Dollywood. You might think that a living legend known for her glitz and glamour has an equally glamorous lifestyle, but Dolly stayed true to her simple beginnings. She's lived in the same 3,300 square foot house just outside of Nashville since 1999. The low-key $400,000 home features a few unique amenities, including a tennis court, swimming pool, chapel, and working farm. But the interior is pure country charm, just like the music star herself. When she's not enjoying her humble home, Dolly likes to get away on the weekends. "My husband and I have a camper," she said. "We travel around all the time." Parton and her media-shy long-term husband like exploring small towns around the South, often overlooked by tourists. But for everyday jaunts, Dolly's car of choice has always been a Cadillac. Her gold 1997 Cadillac d'Elegance was a favorite of hers for years and is now on display at the Hollywood Star Cars Museum. Shortly after making her contribution to the collection, Dolly upgraded her ride to a new $80,000 Cadillac Escalade Hybrid. Dolly loves Cadillacs so much, she always makes sure to gift her parents the latest models too. Being worth over $500 million definitely allows her to share her wealth. But despite her smash hit singles, success, and status as a cultural icon, Dolly's journey to fame was long and tough. Born in 1946 in rural Tennessee, Dolly was the 4th of 12 children. She said her family was so dirt poor that the doctor who delivered her was paid for his services with a bag of oatmeal. The Parton family shared a 1-bedroom cabin with no electricity and no indoor plumbing in the Smoky Mountains. Dolly slept in a single bed with her younger siblings throughout her entire childhood. Her family's income came solely from Parton's father, an illiterate tobacco farmer and construction worker. Money was tight, and the family was always short on basic necessities. When Dolly was just 6 years old, she fell over in the street and almost severed her toes on broken glass. Because her parents couldn't afford a doctor, her mum had to sew her toes back on herself. For Dolly, music was her only escape. Inspired by her mother's love of folk songs, Dolly often sang barefoot on the front porch for her family and at church for her grandfather's congregation. She wrote her first song when she was just 5 years old. At 7, she cobbled together a makeshift guitar out of an old mandolin and 2 bass strings. It would be the first of many instruments Parton would pick up, including a dulcimer, banjo, piano, recorder, and saxophone. "Oh, I play some of everything," Parton said. "I ain't that good at none of it, but I tried to sell it. I really tried to lay into it. Though they were poor, her family encouraged her love of music. They're very musical and everybody played musical instruments, so we just grabbed up anything and tried to play. From a very young age, Dolly knew she wanted to be a performer. It was impossible to ignore not just her talent, but her drive and determination to overcome her circumstances. Dolly's uncle was so impressed with Dolly that he bought her a real guitar and offered to be her manager. This risk paid off. Dolly Parton scored her first professional gig as a regular performer on a popular Knoxville radio show at just 10 years old. When she was just 14, she sang at the prestigious Grand Ole Opry, where she met legendary musician Johnny Cash. After Johnny heard her perform, he told Dolly to follow her dreams and always follow her instinct. She took this advice to heart. Over the next few years, Dolly focused on writing as many songs as possible and performing to audiences across her hometown. Once she graduated high school, she knew she had to leave her tiny town of Locust Ridge, Tennessee, for the capital of country, Nashville. It didn't take Dolly long to catch the attention of Music Row or to secure her very first recording contract at 19. There was only one problem. The label wanted her to be a pop star, but Dolly wanted to sing country. Dolly refused to compromise, determined to represent her country roots and her unique Appalachian aesthetic. She wrote songs for others for a few years, and when she finally released her unapologetic first single, Dumb Blonde, it was a smash hit.
A song called Dumb Blonde.
Yeah.
She is about to sing it for you.
Thank you, Bobby.
Now, Dolly.
Don't try to cry.
The song that catapulted her into the spotlight. One of the biggest country music entertainers of the era offered Dolly a regular spot on his weekly variety program, The Porter Wagoner Show. Dolly replaced the previous much-loved host, Norma Jean, but audiences were skeptical. Her debut performance was greeted with such intense backlash and boos that the host himself had to step in to calm the rowdy viewers down. Her first big gig seemingly a bust, Dolly considered leaving the music industry altogether, but she knew she'd come too far to give up. She decided to use the audience's resistance to fuel her determination to keep going, and she did. She would stay on as a co-host of the show for 8 years. After Wagoner convinced his label, RCA Victor, to sign Dolly in 1968, she would go on to release chart-topping country albums every year for the next 3 decades. But with Wagoner co-producing all her music, he also owned 50% of the rights. And before long, Dolly realized that she needed to cut ties and strike out on her own. When a new opportunity landed on her doorstep in 1980, she finally had her chance to reach a wider audience. Lily Tomlin asked Dolly to write the whole soundtrack for her new movie, 9 to 5.
Tumble out of bed and I stumble to the kitchen, pour myself a cup of ambition.
And Dolly jumped at the opportunity. After all, who knew better than her what it really meant to be barely getting by? But Dolly was even more excited when Tomlin asked her to make her silver screen debut by taking the lead role. 9 to 5 took Dolly's career to a whole new level, earning her a new generation of fans, with her 23rd record, 9 to 5 and Odd Jobs, peaking at 11 on Billboard 200, making it her most popular album yet. And while it took her a while to truly get on her feet, her hard work had finally paid off. Over the course of her career, Dolly Parton would compose over 3,000 songs for herself and others, including Whitney Houston, Tina Turner, and Waylon Jennings. She's been nominated for 46 Grammys. had 110 singles and released 43 studio albums that have sold over 100 million copies worldwide. Even after a multi-decade career, Dolly isn't planning on retiring anytime soon. While a large amount of her money has come from her music, Dolly definitely isn't a dumb blonde. She co-founded a production company. Dolly's Sand-Dollar Productions is responsible for the cult classics Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Father of the
I thought
Bride,
you guys were gonna have a baby.
Get out of here. Tell him.
I'm gonna have a baby.
and Sabrina the Teenage Witch. But this isn't even her most impressive business venture to date. Dolly has invested a huge amount of her earnings into local businesses around her hometown, including restaurants and dinner theatres. She's even bought the tiny cabin she grew up in. And if that wasn't enough, she has her own theme park. Since 1986, Dollywood has been welcoming over 3 million people annually to the Smoky Mountains, and the 6th best amusement park in the US continues to expand each year. We'd expect nothing less of Dolly. Let's count down some of the lessons Dolly Parton has learned and shared with others over the years that'll help you reach new levels of success. First, share your story. Dolly Parton's Rags to Riches story has been so inspirational that it's been the subject of 2 movies. The first, which premiered in 2015, is called Dolly Parton's Coat of Many Colors, chronicling Dolly's humble beginnings and rise to fame. The film's title comes from a coat that Parton's mother sewed her from a box of rags. Young Dolly was bullied at school for her patchwork coat, but she was able to turn her experience into something positive and wrote a song about it. In 2019, Netflix made a documentary made all about Dolly Parton's life called Here I Am, after her famous song of the same name. Dolly has been unapologetic about her past hardships, using them to infuse her lyrics with the authenticity that millions of people have gravitated towards. She's been able to transform her unique perspective into art, and as a result, she's considered one of the most authentic, down-to-earth celebrities. Second, do what you love and the money will follow. Even though her days of living in a 1-bedroom cabin and barely getting by are long over, Dolly Parton hasn't forgotten the hard lessons she's learned watching her family struggle. Even as a country legend worth $600 million, she lives simply and knows how to manage her money. I love to make money, but I don't just work for money. I love what I do. I work for the art. I've always felt like money is like the ocean. It rolls in, it rolls out, and you have to keep an open hand, an open mind, and open heart. Money is good, but it's not everything. I think if you do good work and keep your mind on your business, you'll make enough. More importantly, if you know how to handle it, you'll keep the money. Third, know when to say no. Dolly's company is ruthlessly selective when it comes to maximizing their busy stars' time, effort, and money. Apparently, Dolly says no to 90% of the business offers that come her way. Dolly even said no to Elvis Presley. Back in the mid-1970s, Elvis had expressed interest in recording his own version of Dolly's famous song, I Will Always Love You. But Dolly said no because she didn't want to give up 50% of the publishing rights. By holding on to the ownership, Dolly ended up making over $10 million in royalties from the song later on. We hope you've learned something from Dolly Parton's journey, from rags to rhinestones. Remember, share your story, do what you love, and know when to say no. Do you agree or disagree that we got all of Dolly Parton's life lessons right? Would you add others? And make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more Rags to Riches stories and personal lessons from your favorite celebrities and entrepreneurs. We put out new stories frequently, so stay tuned for more inspiring content you can apply to your own life. See you next time, Rags to Riches TV fans.